pioneer's name is John B. Watson. His theory was over classical behaviorism by Catherine Woods. He was born on January 9th, 1878, at Travelers Rest, South Carolina. Travelers Rest is at the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains. It has been a stopover for travelers. It was originally home to several Indian tribes such as the Creek and the Cherokee. Travelers Rest gained notoriety as a resting place for weary travelers, livestock, and drovers. Growing up, John lived a simple life on the family farm because they lost most of their wealth during the American Civil War. Emma, John's mother, was a beautiful, strong, and intelligent woman who was known for her devotion to her children and her religion. She named Watson after John Albert Brodess, who was an influential Baptist pastor. She hoped that Watson would grow up and become a Baptist minister. Emma sold the family farm and moved to Greenville in hopes the move would afford John with more opportunities in life. Pickens Butler, John's father, was a good-looking man who was impulsive, lazy, and irresponsible. Butler did not share any of his family's strict religious beliefs or moral standards. He was the town alcoholic and a womanizer. He had 2 Cherokee wives, which led to him leaving for good when Watson was 13. John was the 4th child out of 6. His older siblings are Edward, Thomas Stradley, and Mary Alice. John's grandfather, James Madison Watson, helped establish one of several Baptist churches in the area. Most of his family members were devout fundamental Baptists and did not smoke, drink, or dance. Watson was openly opposed to religion. Growing up, John was subjected to strict religious training. One of Watson's nurses told him that if he went out walking at night, the devil would snatch him away to hell. His mother approved. After that, he started to fear darkness. He did poorly in school and got arrested for fighting. John attended Furman University in 1894 at the age of 16 with the help of his mother's influences and connections. Furman University was a Southern Baptist school that normally produced Baptist ministers. Because John was open about not being religious, he had to persuade the university officials that he had changed his religious views. During his time at Furman, Watson put more effort into his studies, but his grades still were not significant enough. With lack of social skills, he did not make many friends, but became a member of Kappa Alpha fraternity. When Watson was 17, he met a guy named Gordon Moore at Furman University. Gordon was a clergy and psychology professor who took John in. Watson ended up at Furman for 5 years because Gordon gave him a failing grade. At the age of 21, John graduated with his master's rather than a bachelor's degree. When Watson graduated, he stayed home to help take care of his mother, who was sick. After his mother died, he wanted to continue his education and wanted to study philosophy. In 1900, John attended the University of Chicago. John was under the supervision of John Dewey. John then changed courses because he claimed he never knew what Dewey was talking about. He had more interest in psychology and gravitated towards James R. Angel as his major professor. In 1903, Watson received the first Ph.D. in psychology to be awarded by Chicago. During his college years, John went to have a few jobs. He was an assistant at the university's chemistry lab to help pay for college. While he was taking care of his mother, he taught children at a one-classroom school that he called Batesburg Institute. He served as the principal, the janitor, and the handyman. After getting his Ph.D., he accepted a teaching position at Johns Hopkins University in 1908 and was promoted to the chair of the psychology department. In 1901, John married Mary Ikes. They met at the University of Chicago. Mary was the sister of politician Harold L. Ikes. While John was married to Mary, he had an affair with one of his graduate students named Rosalie Rayner. With the affair, John was given a choice between leaving Johns Hopkins or ending the affair with Rosalie. Watson chose Rosalie and they got married in 1921. They were married for 15 years until Rosalie died. During their time of marriage, John entered the field of advertising, and within 2 years, he rose to an executive position. He did ads for Pond's Cold Cream and Maxwell House Coffee. When Rosalie died, John became devastated and became an alcoholic. John had 2 children with his first wife, Mary. Their names are John Ikes Watson and Mary Ikes Watson. John also had 2 children with Rosalie. Their names are William Rayner Watson and James Brodus Watson. Mary Ikes Watson, William Watson, and James Watson all had attempted suicide, which led to William dying in 1954. When William died, John burned all his unpublished work. John had 1 grandchild, and her name is Mariette Hartley. She is the daughter of Mary Ikes Watson. Her birth name is Mary Loretta Hartley. She is an Emmy Award-winning actress who established the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Right after John got his PhD, he took a faculty position at Johns Hopkins University. Not long after, he had earned a promotion to chair the psychology department. He was the full professor of experimental and comparative psychology. In 1913, John published his first theory in an article called Psychology as the Behavior Views It. It is also called Behaviorist Manifesto. John did not agree that psychology was the study of consciousness and other unobservable phenomena. He thought the focus should be on external observable behavior that can be directly measured. With that, he saw no value in studying covert events such as thoughts, perceptions, and sensations. He wanted the goal for psychology to be seen as purely objective experimental branch of natural science with the goal of predicting and controlling behavior. When it comes to nature versus nurture, John had a radical stance. He did not agree that instinctive and genetic theories of human functioning, which led him to believe that all behaviors are learned responses to environmental stimuli. He believed that many behaviors are thought to be inherited but are really shaped by early childhood experiences. In 1928, Watson published Psychological Care of Infant Child. In this work, he cautioned against providing children with too much affection, and instead endorsed the practice of treating children like miniature adults. John saw emotions as nothing more than physiological reactions to environmental stimuli. He believed that humans are born with 3 emotions: fear, rage, and love. At first, John only did experiments for his behavior theories on lab rats. But as time went on, he started to use children as well. He conducted an experiment and called it the Little Albert Experiment. John, in the help of Rosalie Rayner, they conditioned a small child to fear a white rat. They repeatedly paired the white rat with a loud, frightening, clanging noise. By the end of the experiment, the child feared anything that was white and furry. Watson even did his experiments on his own children, which in return caused his children to have problems later in life. 3 out of 4 of his kids tried to commit suicide, with 1 passing away. Watson favored the classical conditioning of Ivan Pavlov, and it became the cornerstone of his approach. Edward Lee Thorndike introduced the concept of reinforcement and was the first to apply psychological principles to learning. In 1915, John was elected president of the American Psychological Association, APA. In 1957, he received the award for distinguished scientific contributions. In 1936, Watson stopped writing for popular audiences. He was rumored to have become a heavy drinker after the death of Rosalie. However, he gave up alcohol because his physician told him to and was in good health. A historian by the name John Burnham interviewed John and reported him to still be a man of strong opinions and some bitterness towards his detractors. John's already strained relationship with his children grew even worse later in his life. The last years of his life, he became reclusive and lived on a farm in Connecticut. On September 25th, 1958, at the spry age of 80, he passed away. They do not know the cause of death exactly, but they assume it was from old age. Behaviorism in the classroom setting could also be considered classroom management. Since Watson believed that human psychology and behaviorisms are shaped entirely by their external environment, you can alter their environment. For example, if a teacher has a reward system and they only give out rewards to students who have good behavior, then that will help teach students to perform the expected behavior on their own. Even though John Watson's experiments were extreme and controversial, he learned that children learn how to behave by using external stimuli. Teachers could use those findings by using rewards for positive reinforcements or take away things as punishment. Then the children will learn how to behave if they want a reward. Give me a dozen healthy infants, well-formed in my own specified world to bring them up in, and I'll guarantee to take anyone at random and train him to become any type of specialist I might select. Doctor, lawyer, artist, merchant chief, and yes, even beggar, man, and thief. Regardless of his talents, penchants, tendencies, abilities, vocations, and race of his ancestors, I am going beyond my facts, and I admit it, but so have the advocates of the contrary, and they have been doing it for many thousands of years.